What's up guys, MikeCoco back here, bringing you guys a first impressions on our new hero Sarah Pendragon. Now, Sarah is the same hero as the Sarah we've seen in S1, except in a different timeline. So supposedly the story changes because Sarah changes like time or something, and instead of being like, I don't know what she is, like a mercenary, she becomes like royal family or something. So she's still a bow user, and her skill is actually very similar to Alena's. So her skill is a fear reduction in a row and applies a bleeding dot. Now that's it. Now at first you're probably thinking, you know what, that's actually really mediocre and it's actually worse than Alena because Alena has a magic dot which ignores defense. But just hold on for a second. Sarah's fury is only 200. So her skill only requires 200 fury rather than Alena's more costly 300 fury. And this means that when she lowers her own fury down, she only has to spend 100 fury each turn. So you're getting a lot of return in for her own fury. So with 200 fury, it also means that you can apply her skill sooner than rather than waiting to rack up to 300 fury and then up using Alena's skill. Now you only have to rack up to 200 fury before you can apply Sarah's skill. So that's actually really nice, and I can totally see Sarah replacing Alena because of this fact. Also because row is a lot easier to deal with than cross. A cross formation, although having the most efficient placement, can actually target more heroes because it's one on each side. It's much more difficult to move all those heroes in a short amount of time compared to just moving Sarah from one row to the next row and moving her to the back row and then just repeating that all over again. So the row fury is actually a lot simpler. A lot less thinking going on, and so everything is just much simpler with a fury row reduction rather than a cross pattern. So that's actually really nice, and her stats are quite decent as well. She has around a 1.7k higher agility stat compared to Adriel of Darkness, who's a S6 bow hero, so that's a pretty decent size boost from S6 to S7, so it's definitely worth getting. The only problem I see with Sarah is that if your team is basically complete, like you already have your team covers every single area, it may be hard to fit in Sarah to your current team without taking someone out that you might need. Of course, if you already have Alena, then you can absolutely just replace Sarah with Alena, but not everybody runs Alena, which I can totally understand. I still don't run Alena in Tower because I don't really see the need to, but in Mythic it's somewhat useful. So yeah, I can definitely see people struggling to put Sarah into their formation, which is totally fine. Especially in Mythic Raid, if you're using Taihu, Sarah and both Alena have somewhat of a limited use because for 2 turns you have Fury down already, which like you already have that skill in one of your heroes, so I think it might be better off to switch to another Mythic hero. But if you can get your team set up with Sarah inside your team, then that's perfectly fine. If you can't, that should be fine too. Changing the team synergy just for one hero doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially because to actually maximize Sarah, you will have to play on non-auto, so you actually have to manually move her in each row. So in a sense, if you can't do that, it's also fine. But Sarah is a pretty decent hero, and if you do get your hands on her, I would definitely say keep her. She will be useful, and you can probably, if you want, you can probably toss away Alena. I probably would because she's a magic user, and magic users are generally less tanky than some of the agility users out there, or not agility, ranged users. My bad. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my first impressions on Sarah. Keep her if you get her, but don't be too frustrated if you don't. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Peace. What's up guys, MikeCoco back here, just wanted to add in some information for the new mythic hero Michael that was released alongside Sarah. Now Michael is a spear user with 200 fury for his skill, and he's actually very similar to Prince Arthur, who was also recently released. So like Prince Arthur, he has a 3-turn attack up. Instead, now it's a 250% attack up rather than Prince Arthur's 200%. But he does lose the guaranteed critical aspect, but he gains a shield and a party attack increase for all melee heroes by 20% in return. So first off, the skill says that the effect lasts until the shield wears out and cannot use skills. So I'm slightly confused as to what this means, because previously when you have the self buff, if the buff is removed, let's say Taihu uses the dispel buff, or Jury uses dispel buff, it will remove the crit buff and the attack up from Prince Arthur's hero, but that means Prince Arthur can reuse the skill and reapply those buffs. Now, in Michael's case, instead of one of them being a self buff, he creates a shield which absorbs damage. Now, the description is hinting like it's saying that if the shield is broken, then you can reapply his skill, which can be good or bad depending on how you see it. But it can also mean that if the shield is broken, you cannot reapply your skill until your attack buff is also removed. So for example, let's say Michael buffs his skill on the first turn and attacks the frog. And suppose the frog deals a lot of damage and breaks Michael's shield. There's two scenarios in this case. One, he can reapply a skill because his shield is broken and he can again reapply it to reactivate the shield, or he can't reactivate it until the attack buff is gone. Now, both situations are somewhat similar. One of them, he has an attack buff, and he has a shield, and the other one he doesn't have a shield. In this case, I think they're both somewhat similar, and it doesn't really matter. Of course, being able to apply your skill again is somewhat wasteful for Fury, because he's a tank. Tanks survive for quite a long time, and even then, if he does lose his shield and someone hits him, you got healers for a reason. So in either case, I really don't think it's too much of a big deal on whether or not you can reapply a skill if his shield is broken, or until after the 3 turns is over. But in the aspect of just autoing an AI, I think having the shield, even if it's broken, you cannot apply it until the attack buff is over, is a much better solution, because that means you can set a skill to always use, and he will always maintain his attack buff every 3 turns. Even if the shield is broken, he can't use a skill, which is good because his attack up is still up. You don't really need a shield at that moment. So in terms of autoing, that would be better. But in terms of manual, where you sometimes need a shield to protect yourself, let's say in Mythic Raid, the other solution, I forget which one I said was the first one. The other solution is better. So either solution doesn't seem to hurt too much. Just one seems to more focused on auto, and the other one seems to be more focused on the manual aspect, which is totally fine. Now, his buff for melee heroes is 20%, and I believe that's somewhat similar to Raphael. I think someone mentioned Raphael's attack buff, but I don't remember who it was, because it was a long time ago, so I'm sorry if I forgot your name, but I think it was 20 or maybe 25%. But Raphael was only for a 20/25% boost, and it was only for his own row, while Michael trying to say buff and boosts the entire team of melee users. So if you're running a lot of melee users, which is kind of strange because you should have like a diverse setup of some melee, some range, some magic. But if you're running a lot of magic, or not magic, melee users, the 20% attack up can actually stack up pretty well, because that's 20% for every hero, which is quite decent. So I can totally see Michael being effective as a support. However, I still don't see him taking over Remy as the top tier mythic hero, because with the release of Remy's costume, how can you ever beat a 2-turn immunity to stuns and debuffs and silences and any crowd controlling moves? How can you, you can't beat that. So I still think Remy is top tier. However, Michael is definitely, I would say he's definitely on par with Raphael, if not better, for sure. But because he lacks the crit buff, and as you saw in the previous demonstration, he's not hitting as high numbers because he's not getting a crit on each hit, that might be hindering his damage a little bit, because Corinna also has an attack up and a guaranteed crit as well. So in a sense, I'm not sure if Michael will actually out DPS Corinna. However, as support, he will definitely be much better, but I cannot say for just raw damage he will outdeal Corinna. But if you are running a lot of crit buffers, especially Pram, because she has a 75% crit buff, that's absolutely no problem. You can set Pram right behind Michael, and the crits will be coming. The attack buff, which is a 2.5 times. I believe that's the strongest hitting move in this game so far. I think the calculated skill damage is actually Little Vanessa at 2.3, but her stats are actually really low. So at 2.5 times attack, Michael is definitely the hero with the strongest skill as of now. I don't think any other hero can exceed him. Unless it's another mythic at 2.09 and a costume. But even then, that's only at around 2.4-ish. So Michael, in terms of just raw strength, is powerful, but the numbers he will hit will depend if he has those criticals. So yeah, just wanted to add that in for Michael. But I still think Remy's top tier. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Peace.